When the weather's just right, there is nothing like a cup of chai. It just hits all the right spots. Now, tea came to India via the British, but then it took a little bit of Indianization to make it absolutely perfect. And on a completely unrelated note, we have this, the new Triumph Speed 400. A Triumph it is by all means, but it has been designed and built in India up to Triumph specifications. This is Auto Today. My name is Dipayan and you're watching our review of the Triumph Speed 400.
Dawn's up and my door shut, D&D so don't call up. A few missed meals, so what? Crunch time about to crawl up. I'm a force under big pressure, under pressure they frog us. If you coasting with a mediocre, then any over you cold luck.
Now if you've come to the third page of your YouTube search, found our little thumbnail, clicked on it and come to this video, I can tell you two things. One, that you really want to buy the Triumph Speed 400 and you're looking for a good reason to buy one. And two, that you haven't subscribed to the Auto Today channel yet, so you should probably do that now and hit that little bell icon so you get notified every time we come out with new automotive content every week. And don't forget to like this video if you liked it at the end of it. Hit that like button, it means so much to us. Now before we jump into our review, let me run through the specs that you probably already know and tell you what makes this bike so formidable, aside of course from that bombastic price. Now before I jump into my full-scale review, let me talk a little bit about what sets the India Spec Speed 400 apart from the international spec that you've already probably researched at length. Well, for starters, you have different wheels and tires up front with MRFs or Apollos on the India Spec variant and a stronger alloy wheel that is reinforced and heavier. You also get this number plate holder in the front, knee guards of course on the sides, a revised grab rail at the back, and again a different set of tires, W-rated Apollos, 17-inch wheels, reinforced alloys that are slightly heavier. And on this side what you can't see is a sari guard. Now in total this comes out to about an additional 6 kgs of mass on this motorcycle. Now it's not a lot, it pushes the weight to about 185 kgs. I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker in any way, but it is a 6 kg weight ballast on the India Spec bike that you don't have on the international spec, and that's something we'd like to clear the air with before we jump into our review. Now I've already spent a little bit of time on the track with this motorcycle, but Bajaj were very clear that this is not a track bike and therefore it should not be reviewed from a perspective of the track, but I can tell you it was a very rewarding experience. Let me tell you a little bit about the kit on this motorcycle. Now up front, of course, big piston USD forks from Endurance, 43mm. You get a digi analog instrument cluster with analog speedometer and of course all the other readouts on a little digimeter on it. Now it's not the most modern instrument cluster that we've seen, especially even in this segment, even recently speaking, but it still gets the job done well, and I really like to watch that needle on the speedometer climb the revs. It's something that only if you're an old school biker and if you really appreciate the spirit of a modern classic that you will appreciate. The throttle is ride by wire. Up front you have a 320mm disc, at the back you have a 230mm disc. At the center of course you have this new 398cc liquid cooled engine that makes 40 horsepower and 37.5 Nm of torque. We'll get into that more once we're riding. You also get this side slung exhaust with a belly pan that is specifically designed to enhance the torque. Now at the back you get a monoshock that is adjustable, 10 steps for preload of course, no damping adjustment on either end. You also get a very basic electronic switch which includes dual channel ABS and a traction control system that has 2 settings, on and off. It is perfectly simple, perfectly the way I like it, and perfectly modern classic. And now when we talk about the ergonomics, the first thing you're going to ask me is about the seat height, 795 millimeters, which means that me at 6 feet, I can bend my knees on the way down. If you're anywhere above 5 feet 5, your feet will reach the ground more than comfortably. This is a very accessible motorcycle, and let's not forget it weighs only about 176 kgs, which means that it is also a pretty light motorcycle to handle and ride. Now when it comes down to the rider's triangle, of course it is a modern classic, which means it's going to have an upright and open to the wind kind of riding style, which it does. But it pairs that with slightly forward set foot pegs that allow you to meet the knee recesses on the tank and really get a lot of moving around done on the motorcycle, especially in the corners. So we've spent the better part of the day riding Triumph and Bajaj's new baby Speed 400, the smallest displacement Triumph that you can buy right now. And straight off the bat, I can tell you there is a lot to like. Number one on that list, of course, is the engine. This 400cc engine is an absolute dream. There is just so much torque throughout the power band. There is torque right from 2000 RPM all the way to the 8000 RPM red line. And I can tell you this because I've hit the rev limiter on the 6th gear, which I've never ever done on any other motorcycle, just because there was that much torque propelling it towards the top end, and it just hits the rev limiter and stays there. That is something that is absolutely incredible. Power too is not really an issue. We did an indicated 165 on the meter from these 40 horses, which should tell you more than what you need to know about this Triumph. Now, another place where she really shines is in the corners and how she corners and holds grip. There is not only the rider's triangle that plays into this part with the flat handlebars and the forward set pegs that allow you to dial in right, but also the suspension that works well to absorb the bumps. I did not like these softer springs in the beginning of the ride, but as I got more time out on the road in real Indian conditions, I really started to like this way the suspension handles. Of course, on the track when we rode it at Bajaj's test facility in Chakan, I would have liked slightly stiffer springs, and if there was an adjustable option also, I would have definitely considered it, especially with the price point of this bike. Now, one of the things I really don't like about this motor is the NVH, and vibrations have been there almost throughout. While some at the seat, some at the pegs, some at the bars, it's been constant, and it just gets progressively worse as you climb the rev band. The problem is that it's just so much fun to climb that rev band, so you always finding a new way to rev out the bike, and you are going to come home feeling a little vibey, which for this kind of performance I am willing to bargain. Now, I've always had this one grouse with things that Bajaj made, and that was the gearbox. It was never really precise, it was a little bit mushy, it was sometimes vague, you would find false neutrals, but this one, Bajaj have really pulled it off. It is so almost surgical in the way that it shifts. There is a shift, positive shift every time you thumb that lever, whichever direction, and it works effortlessly. I really haven't needed the quick shifter throughout. Another thing that I really like, of course, is the ride-by-wire throttle that really takes a mushy input and smoothens it out so that you're never really pushing too much on the electronics, and a lot of it is being taken care of mechanically, which I really like. Now, moving on to the tires, I was very happy with the grip of the tires in the dry. On the wet, the tires do leave a little to be desired despite being W-rated tires, but they do get a little slippy. Now, traction control and ABS work well. At no points when they were switched on did I really feel them intervening, which in my books is the best way to have an electronic aid, where it does not interfere with the way you ride naturally. And I think Triumph and Bajaj have got that down. Fit and finish is another place where this bike scores really high. All the little details, right down to the paint and right down to these multi-layers of paint, where you can actually feel the quality of the paintwork right down to the weld seams, the nuts, the rivets, everything is primo quality. Yes, the infotainment is not an all digital TFT display like we're used to. It's an analog digital, but it looks good and it does the job. So I really don't come away wanting for much in terms of an instrument cluster. There is also the fact that there is a lot of modularity between the Scrambler and the Speed. Now, for example, these bar end mirrors can be had either on the Scrambler, or you can fit the standard mirrors onto this bike if these seem uncomfortable for you, which is a great way of introducing Bajaj's scalability in such a way that it can get to the customer. And now finally, coming down to that question of that 2.23 lakh rupee price tag for this 400cc, 40 bhp, 38 Nm torque, modern classic with a Triumph badge on it. Is it too good to be true? Well, the simple answer is no. This Triumph really lives up to the name on the tank and so much more. Considering that Bajaj have come in on this project, they've actually managed to give Triumph a good sense of what it means to build a really premium small motorcycle. I think that this is the start to a very, very interesting phase in motorcycling. This is DD signing off.